All right. Hey, Rifters, welcome to the show. Subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Very excited for this guest. Um, I have a couple dates. Uh, well, maybe I will plug them next week because they're not set in stone. So I will plug them next week. Even though they are set in stone, I just don't know the dates set in stone. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Anyways, guys, I had a great time this weekend. I went to Comic Con or Creepy Con, and I hung out with my friend Christy Swanson. I met Danielle Harris. It was great, so much fun, and yeah, it was one of the funnest times I've ever had because I've never really gone to those things. I did do one where I interviewed people, but it wasn't like a real one. It was more like game ones, and they're like no one really heard about it. And maybe there's 100 people there, but I kind of want to do that again next year. Just see if I could like really jump through the hoops on that. I think that would be cool, be my thing. But it was really fun. Christy was very sweet. uh she hung out with me, took care of me, and introduced me to Danielle Harris, who, as you guys know, big crush, and been trying to get her on riffs for a while. But that's all back from yesterday. Today we're jumping in. I have a great guest. I've been trying to get this guest for a while, and it's really cool that it's finally happening. Um, I always hate the term comics comic because I feel maybe it doesn't really mean the 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 compliments that it says. But Pete Lee is definitely someone who makes me laugh. Like, and it's really hard if you're a comedian, or if you're not a comedian. Maybe this makes more sense. If you're not a comedian, it's really hard to make other comedians laugh. And Pete Lee is one of those guys that really makes me laugh. So I'm really excited. You guys are going to love him. He has a Showtime special, Netflix special, Comedy Central special. He's all over the place. Very, very funny. You've seen him on The Tonight Show. He's the first comic to get a standing ovation on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, you guys are going to love it and enjoy Razor Riffs with Pete Lee coming up next.
From Hollywood, California, welcome to Razor Riffs with your host, Keith Razor.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, Pete, how are you?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, man. I'm so glad we got to do this because I've been trying to get you for a while.
Yeah.
And it's this, you're going to laugh at the story. So I got jury duty and I got the letter. And I was like, oh, I really hope I don't have to go in and cancel this.
Oh my God. Oh wow. Yeah. Wait, where are you located? What jury or what jury would you have to do?
The it says the Santa Ana Civic West Drive in California. So
Oh, okay. So the
Orange
Santa
County.
Ana, yeah, Orange County. Yeah, it's funny. I didn't want to do jury duty, and then I met one of my best friends. I like a jury duty. He's the bass player for Tool, and then now like
Oh,
I go to all
nice.
these Tool shows, and like he's literally what like we were like a lot of times people don't oh, I don't know what just happened here. Uh, wait, can you still hear me?
Yeah, and I can
Okay.
see you still. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to get a fuzz off my keyboard, but it was the right, that little bar at the top that has like all the stuff that you can touch that does things
Right.
on a MacBook. I touched something and then I'm like, all of a sudden this other screen popped up and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm gonna blow my nose real quick before we get going. I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
sick. I just I sneezed right before it was like I was like
Uh,
hitting like, yeah, let's join. And I sneezed and I was like, ugh.
you're holding a sneeze. No problem. No problem. Uh,
I've been joking around that I have bad sinuses, and I've been joking around that I have the sinuses of a dad that has to take his glasses off to blow his nose,
yeah.
like that. Yeah, but yeah, jury duty is like, yeah, I did not want to go. I did not want to do it, and then I met one of my best friends, and like I've been to so many Tool shows, and like like hung out with him, and yeah, he's like him and his wife are like two of my best friends now, and we both were like, man, that happened because we did jury duty.
Yeah. I
So I
mean,
wish you luck.
Well, I hope. I mean, I'm just probably trying not to go. Like I've always heard these horror stories that if you don't go, you're going to get arrested or whatever. I don't know
Yeah,
one person who's ever been arrested. But
dude. Yeah, I've never like that would actually be the thing to say when you go to jail. You know, what are you in for? Yeah, jury duty, man. Like, you 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 sure you didn't hurt a kid? No, it's jury duty, man. That's what I'm in for, right?
no,
But
for
yeah,
sure.
everyone else that I know, and especially since I did it, they're like, "Oh no, dude, you just tear them up, you put them in the trash." And I'm like, "But what about when the next one comes and it's red? Like the first one was green on the top, and this one's red, and
Oh my
you
god,
know, like, oh
this
well,
one's red.
yeah, this one's red. They scare you. They scare you with the color. Oh, red. That you're for sure going to be in the clink.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's just my luck. I always get them when, because like I don't get a lot of like work because I'm still like an opening feature act, not to
Yeah,
brag or anything.
not to
But,
brag.
but like it always seems that I get it on something important. You know what I mean? Like when I
Mhm.
have a big gig or something, and it's like I don't know. But
Yeah, well, that's always my thing is I've always showed up for jury duty. I'm like a rule follower, right?
yeah.
And so I'm the guy that I get the summons and then I go. But I've even had it where I show up before and I'm like, hey, here's my tour calendar. I'm here this 1 week. And so and they'll be like, well, do you want to postpone? And I'm like, no, there's no
Postponing.
time.
It's
And
either now or never.
yeah, and people's conception of or perception of comedians touring as like a band touring, which yeah, if you're Tom Segura or or Bert Kreischer or any of those guys, like yeah, you go on a tour and then you're home for 6 months or whatever, like you do the tour. But for us, like the tour is always like the
Yeah.
tour is whenever somebody wants us to go there. And
Well, no, for sure. Well, so I have this strange theory about this, and let me know if like I'm on the right track. Because like when you're first starting, you do a lot of comedy shows for free or whatever, which is fine.
yeah,
There's nothing wrong about that. But you do maybe the first 5, 7 years, I would say 80% of your gigs are probably free. And then when
yeah,
you're starting to get a name, you're starting making money and you're touring. So you're kind of catching back from the first 5 to 7 years you're doing. So you're
uh-huh.
still in a hole, even though you're making money headlining now. You're still kind of bouncing back from like you're playing catch up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and now I'll have gigs where I'm making a lot of money.
Yeah,
Like in my opinion, an unfair amount of money, and it's like I go there and like the gigs are more fun than the ones when I was starting out because like I'm better. I have an arsenal of material that even if the crowd is tough or if it's like a college gig where you have to fit into certain parameters. I'm like, okay, well, I have material for that now, and I
yeah,
can have fun within those parameters. Or a corporate where they're like they'll give you the craziest parameters, like it's got to be squeaky clean, and you can't talk about God or sex or food. Even we had a guy choke on food, so don't talk about food. And you're like, and now I can cobble together a set where that all works out. And so I feel bad that now like gigs are more fun and I'm getting paid more for them.
yeah,
Whereas in the beginning they were harder and I got paid less.
yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, you're right. The first couple of years you just don't get paid at all. But I think that kind of shifted my mentality about comedy. Like for me, the gig is all about the gig. Like no matter how much or how little I'm making, I'm going in there because I'm like, well, I want to work on my stand up or I want to work on this bit or I'm always just kind of still every single time on stage working on being more myself,
Yeah,
the most myself that I can be because I think that's the goal. And then afterwards, like I'll get off stage and let's say I have a weekend where I sold it out or whatever. After the set, like I'll start thinking about like, oh, I wonder what my check's going to be now that I think I got the bonuses.
right.
But I can't think about anything other than the gig. to me, when I step on stage, there's no difference between a bar show where there's 14 people there, where one of my friends, was like, "Hey, can you come do my bar show, on the Thursday before your weekend?" There's no difference between getting on stage there and getting on stage, like the Irvine Improv,
Yeah.
where when it's sold out. Yeah,
Yeah.
like mentally, I'm like, just whoever I'm in front of, I just want to connect with them. I want to be funny. Like I want the stuff to land. But yeah, you can't think about the money. But early on, you make nothing for a
Eh,
long time.
exactly. Yeah. So like, you're catching up from that nothingness, you know what I mean? So like that's how I look at it. That's my theory.
Yeah. Have you ever had a friend that starts stand up, or um like I had a friend that started stand up, and then they always bring around the girlfriend and the wife, right? And
Right.
a lot of times these are people who they had a good job, or they have a good job, and they have this wife that's like a stable, normal, I'm going to call her a civilian, right?
Right.
Then they get into this comedy world, and at first the wife's like, oh, he's trying out his dream, bucket list. And
Right.
then when they really start to get into comedy, then the wife is like, oh, this is taking up a lot of time, and like you don't get to come to the party this weekend because you're doing a gig. And then the wife starts asking, they always ask all the other comics in the green room, like usually when they're on stage, like, so like when do you start getting paid for this? Like when
Yeah.
how much do you make a year? Like I've been asked that, how much do you make a year? And I'm like, I won't tell you that.
Right.
And then like, but they'll be like, but when will he start making that? And I'm like, never. Like he's gonna make nothing forever, and then if he's lucky, he's gonna start making like $1 for a while, and then it's gonna start, paying off. But yeah, those anytime, I don't know. Like I'd be curious. I don't really know many comedians that started kind of later in life, with the wife, where it worked out. But then, you hear about like, Rodney Dangerfield started later in life, and he had a wife and kids and whatever. And he was one of the greatest ever. But I imagine that on the way to being one of the greatest ever, Rodney Dangerfield had a lot of questions to answer around the house.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Yeah. But then like he started doing movies. I think that's what really helped his stand up, like selling
Hmm.
tickets and stuff. But but yeah, man, Rodney was great. I mean, there and that style too, like it might have been like pretty popular in the 90s, early 2000s, but that style is not really that popular nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that one liner, kind of character driven, uh, sort of a thing. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, Mark Norman, style wise, is kind of, I would say, is the most similar to Rodney. Like because like Mark kind of talks like this, and
Right.
that's really how Mark talks. He talks like a pickle salesman, and like,
Even
and
off stage, he's like that.
yeah, he's not that voice is not an act. Like that's Mark. And, I don't like eye contact. Like that's Mark, and he's been one of my good friends for a long time. And but yeah, he, like, if you watch his videos that he puts out on Instagram, like even his new stuff that he works on each week, that's maybe topical or whatever. Like he is, like he's speaking in punchlines, and he's like. He's a joke machine. He
Yeah.
writes great jokes in a row, and that's kind of how Rodney talked.
Yeah.
Like it's not. It was like in an elevated sort of voice. Basically telling a story that's linear, but it's all like one-liners that go together. And Mark is such a great writer that I feel like he kind of he's like the only comic that I know working right now that kind of embodies that.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of writing, I wanted to ask you this because I don't like the term comic because I feel like even though it's supposed to be complimentary, it's kind of insulty. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, 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 you're a comics comic. That usually, well, yeah, I'm trying to think of examples, but yeah, a lot of times it means well, you haven't made it.
right. But so I want to say this from the bottom of my heart because you're one of my favorite comics and I'm a comedian, and it's very hard to make other comedians laugh, and
Oh,
you truly make me laugh.
oh
So
man, thank you.
so I don't want to say comics comic because I know it's kind of both, but that's, you make me smile and laugh. So that's how much you
Well,
mean to me.
well, thank you, man. That means a lot to me. And what if you would have just said that and then there was silence and I would have been like lame?
I thought you were going to say, so you're saying I'm a comics comic.
Yeah, yeah. So you're saying I'm a comic? No, I don't know. I the term comics comic I do think is I mean it's high praise. It's kind of what you it's kind of what you want. Like I always wanted to be a comics comic, and then like, but it was I don't think that I potentially became one until I gave up on that idea. You know,
Yeah.
like I started I talked about it on this Hot Breath podcast recently. Like I changed the whole like philosophy of how I write, and I used to try to write like stand up. You know, which stand up is like I gotta come up with an angle. I gotta get the premise. I gotta set up, punch, tag, tag, tag. And then I took all the UCB classes, the
Oh,
Upright
nice.
Citizens Brigade. I was a long time ago. I was like an opener for Louis on like the club level, and his writing. If you look at it, it's not necessarily stand up. Well, it is stand up. It's great stand up, but he also kind of merges stand up writing with almost like the style of like um, improv Harold.
Yeah.
Like he finds a game and then he heightens it, and a lot of times he gets into the game with like an initial like traditional stand up punchline, and then he plays the game, and then usually like the last tag of the bit winds up rolling into being the first punchline of the next thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's amazing. Like the structure of his writing is amazing. So on his suggestion a long time ago, I went and studied at the UCB, and I took all their improv classes, all their sketch classes. I never was home enough, kind of like jury duty, right? Like I was never home enough to even try out for one of the house teams there. I would have loved that, like getting to improvise with them. But it's shifted my thinking from like, oh, I got to write a great bit. Um, I want to write a bit that the comics in the room are gonna like, like, because you always want the admiration of your peers. Um, but now the thinking at the UCB is like, don't think about what's funny, don't think about what's brilliant. Like, just find the fun. Like,
Yeah.
whenever a situation presents itself, be like, what's fun here? I like, and I when I improvise and I do crowd work on stage, I'm always thinking like, what's fun about this? And like the last clip that I just released on Instagram is doing real well. The I asked this lady, I was like, "Hey, what's your drama?" I always ask the crowd what their drama is, and this lady was like, "Well, dating drama." She goes, "My ex-boyfriend, I moved to Arizona for him." She goes, "And then he kicked me out of the state, and then I had to move back to my parents in Georgia." And then he reached out to my parents and asked if he could write me a letter
Yeah.
because he wanted to get back with me. And I was like, so, with that statement, what's fun? Like, I was like, what's fun here? I'm like, first of all, what's fun? This man kicked you out of the state? Like, like what? Like,
And it was in Arizona.
yeah, and it was in Arizona. I was like, who has the authority to kick you out of the state? I'm like, that's so funny. Like I was like, that's so fun. It's like it's fun the idea that this man evicted her from a state, you know.
Right.
And so like that was the first beat that I played, and then I'm like, and then he wanted to write your parents, or he asked your parents' permission to write you a letter, and then so the game that I figured out was like this sounds like I go, this feels like you're a time traveler from the year 1968, like and then I just kind of riffed like
Old school breakup.
yeah, like this man evicted me from Arizona and and then asked my parents if he could write me a letter. And like I brought in the word cholera, and and yeah, I can't even do the riff that I did in the moment, but like like that was what was fun about it, was that it seemed old timey,
Yeah.
and so I found the game there. And so thinking things in terms of like what's fun, what's the game I can play, I think really elevated things for me mentally and shift. It just was a mental shift. Instead of, sometimes we're sitting down in a coffee shop and we're writing, because that's what Jerry Seinfeld says we needs to do. We need to do.
Yeah.
And like Jerry Seinfeld's brilliant, but he's probably one of the least fun people I've ever been around.
Oh,
And
yeah. I mean, because
like,
I wrote for Norm's podcast, and
mm,
Seinfeld was one of the guests, and he was very, very boring. Like I didn't have,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I just thought, you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Not that there's anything wrong with that,
Yeah,
but
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 yeah,
yeah, I mean, and maybe, I've been around him a handful of times, just like at sitting at a table at the cellar with him or whatever. And maybe he seems not fun to me because he's Jerry Seinfeld and everybody's a little tense around him.
right,
He also, like, maybe if you're hanging out with him and you're Julia Louis Dreyfus, he's a ham, he's a real cut up. And maybe he just wants to sit there when it's, me and a few other cellar comics or whatever. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like he just seems a little more serious or whatever. But like, it's funny because like Seinfeld is, he's kind of made a lot of the rules for comedy, and but part of it's that like, he's, and to his credit, I know I just called him no fun, but he's brilliant. I just want to be clear, he's brilliant,
no,
and
no, he is,
he's
yeah, definitely,
but like Seinfeld's been really outspoken about the process and kind of the rules of comedy, and and he's not doing that to be a blowhard. He's doing that because he's trying to give away his recipe so that so that comedy can get better. But his recipe is like, he's a little hard on himself. He's a little more serious,
yeah,
and he's very structured. And when you look at his his bits, they're very written pre-stage, and I respect that. I did that for a long time, and now I think I'm much funnier because I'll maybe write something off stage, but then I let myself finish it on stage. I
right,
let my brain save me versus, like, because if you go up on stage and you have a setup and a punchline and you have no tags, the audience will kind of help you with what the tags are.
yeah,
And maybe you can come up with a tag or two, or the rest of the bit, or if it's game based, the heightening of it or whatever. But a lot of times, like, have you ever been sitting across from somebody and you're like, man, I think I can tell what he's thinking, right now. Like, sometimes.
probably not because I have Asperger's, so I
Oh
can't
yeah.
tell. So,
Oh yeah.
but
Oh yeah. That's right. That's
but
right.
yeah,
Which, by the way, Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Talking to Strangers that debunks the idea that, like, when you're sitting across from somebody and you're like, I think I know what you're thinking. He's like, dude, 10 out of 10 times you don't.
really, oh my, that makes
Yeah.
me feel way better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so I think the only difference between someone with Asperger's and not is the other people's egos think that they know what the other person's thinking.
Yeah,
And yeah, you're actually no different in that regard, except for you don't have any illusion that you think that you know what somebody's thinking. But
yeah,
uh,
I just make up what they're thinking, and I go with
yeah,
it.
yeah, you're like, dude, this guy's thinking about popsicles.
This guy
This
loves
guy,
popsicles.
dude, that's what he's thinking, man. Dude, he's yeah. um, but yeah, but I don't know. I think I was talking about, yeah, series based writing versus having fun, and but yeah, I don't know. Like, I do think that early on in my career, I sat down in the coffee shop and I was very masochistic, right? You're sitting there, you're not thinking of anything, you're kind of hating yourself, and I think a better way to do it is to have kind of go through life, write down stuff in your notes, take up those half baked ideas, and then kind of let the audience will kind of, you're kind of reading them, and sometimes you throw out this punchline, and then if you just kind of listen to the vibe of the crowd, you can kind of figure out the tags, or like maybe even figure out where you should go. But prior to that, I would write like setup, punch, tag, 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 and a lot of times the tags, I was just getting it completely wrong. Like, no,
Yeah.
this isn't what they want to hear. This isn't what logically comes next. And if you're at a dinner party and you're telling a story you've never told for the first time, the whole table would wind up riffing on it and coming up with these great crowds. So it's like you're not like riffing to the crowd, you're like riffing with them, and like they'll
Yeah.
help you. Like
Yeah.
they'll definitely help you. I've even had shows where other comics go, man, that's a great tag, and I'm like, yeah, this lady in the audience like just said it out of her mouth after I told my joke, and I'm like. George Carlin said, the funniest people are not stand-up comedians, and listen to them. Like the funniest person's your best friend that, works at the bike shop, like
Yeah.
and like, listen to them. We have this ego that stand-up comedians are the funniest people, but really the only difference between me and my best friend who works at the bike shop who's funny is that I write my shit down and then I've made myself get on stage.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also they probably have no desire to be funny. So maybe they don't think they're funny and it just comes natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that could be the case for yeah, a lot of people that are funny, or they, like we were talking about that guy that starts late in life, like I think they just go, oh, that's a long hard road. And
Yeah.
I don't know at what age did you start stand up?
I started when I was 15. And here's the thing is like another reason why I like you a lot is because I feel I have a lot in common with you just on your stand-up journey because you started really
Oh,
young and
yeah.
and you've been doing it for the last 20 years before you got your big break and
Yeah.
and like I'm on my 21st, 22nd year. I still don't
Whoa.
have the big break, but what I'm saying
Yeah.
is like so I feel there's similarities. So like that's another reason why like your humor really, like makes
Oh,
like touches me and stuff. So
thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I touched you.
yeah, well, you know what I mean.
No, I know.
Yeah,
But I'm being silly. I'm being a goose. The No, yeah, it's weird. Like, I got breaks back in the days of television. Like TV's kind of going away. Like
yeah.
it's pretty much gone. Um,
Your Comedy Central Presents special, by the way,
oh,
that was fantastic.
Oh, thank you, man.
Yeah,
That means a lot to me. I'm still really proud of that. And every once in a while, like at the end of my show, people will yell out bits, and they'll yell out a bit from that special, and I have to do this thing where I'm like, oh my god, I haven't told that joke in a decade, and like,
right.
let
And
me let me
you're like,
see,
oh, let me see if I can remember this.
yeah, let me see if I remember how this goes. And but yeah, it's yeah, I mean, like. I got breaks back in the day where someone else gave you breaks, and like the industry used to be structured almost like a daddy daughter sort of a
Yeah,
structure,
yeah,
where it was like daddy, I want a pony, and and will you give me a pony? And then you don't think you're gonna get the pony, and then dad gives you a pony, and you're like, oh, life is better because I was given this gift. That's what comedy used to be. It was that the powers that be at Comedy Central would be like, we like you, and we're going to give you a premium blend or a live at Gotham, or whatever John Oliver stand-up thing. And then all of a sudden you're in the club. You've got this validation, and now you give yourself your own breaks.
right.
If I had my backpack in this room, I'd show you my camera. It's pretty insane. Like I go out on the road and I film. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna walk out and grab it, and I'll show it
Oh,
to you. But
oh, cool.
like I have I basically like am my own production
You're
studio now.
you're the president CEO of Pete Lee.
Yeah, I'm the prez of Pete Lee. I just realized that it is in this room. It's in my suitcase.
Oh, nice.
I just got back home from the road yesterday, and I still haven't unpacked. I just put my suitcase in the closet. This
Oh,
is the first time on the podcast that somebody's just unzipped a suitcase. Um,
there's a first
uh,
time for everything. That's going to be the
there's
new
a
trend.
Yeah, this is going to be the new trend. So I'll show you. Um, oh, this is funny. Like I always get gifts on the road, and somebody gave me barbecue seasoning.
Oh my god.
But so that just fell out of my backpack or out of my suitcase. But yeah, so this is my lens that I film
Oh,
with. This is my Sony FX3. And so like, and this camera is something that like they um this is like the lowest level camera that you can film Netflix stuff on. Not
yeah.
that like, my stuff is on Netflix, but yeah, so now instead of the daddy daughter thing, like I'm my own production company with this camera. And so I record everything and I put it on the internet, and then like we're now we've now entered back into a meritocracy. Like for a
Right.
while it was like you have to be one of the chosen ones, and if you're not chosen you can't make it in entertainment. And now you can choose yourself, and you can put out a clip and it can go viral. Think about like Cam Patterson was on Kill Tony, which is already a big platform, but he did that bit about like I like rocks, and it went super viral, and now he's selling out clubs. And
Yeah.
like um and like I have probably once a month I'll get a clip that goes real viral, or like once a week I got one that spikes. My ticket sales will spike,
Yeah.
and so like we're making it can, like, if you want to make it, like, just be your own
Production guy.
production company. And
Now,
um
do you have three of those cameras so you film in all angles, or do you just have one?
I found that so I do have two cameras, and I used to film from the side angle, but like I get a double chin really easy, and I
Yeah.
noticed that I throw away the side angle every single time. So I
Yeah.
was like, no more side angle. I don't need that. Plus, it's like another 80 gigabytes per show that you're uploading and downloading. And then I use a GoPro, and the GoPro I just have on stage. So I'll grab like little audience clips, and I'm in the process of, I want to keep the GoPro because it's been fun. I pointed at the audience, and it's kind of fun when you're answering questions to be like, answer the question. That's fun. Like it's a game that's fun.
Yeah.
And or like, no, dude, it's just you and me. Nobody else is seeing this. Like that's funny. And but I think I'm going to get a better crowd camera, but then still use this for like, quick grabs or up close grabs, stuff like that. But yeah, so I switch back and forth between, this and that camera. Also, somehow these like six or these nine dots right here on the GoPro,
Uh-huh.
somehow this like captures the audience. Like this is almost like an audience mic, and it's
Yeah.
the best one that I found. Like I've actually like gotten a boom mic and put it on the side of the stage that's aimed at the crowd. The GoPro mic is way better
Oh my
than
god.
those ones. I don't know how, but yeah. And so it's yeah. So that's my point, is that your big break will probably come from you,
Yeah.
now. And aside from Netflix, I think Netflix is still the only daddy daughter thing. And like I'm hopefully going to do a Netflix, hopefully this year in 2025. And I still want the powers that be at Netflix to, give me that pony that I want for my birthday. Um,
Right.
but you know, it's interesting because like, I've been building online numbers, but my YouTube numbers are not what my TikTok and Instagram are, because I haven't focused on it as much as I should. But people that really build their YouTube numbers, um,
It's
they can,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, they can release a special and actually make more money than what Netflix would pay you.
That's what my buddy TJ does. Because I open for TJ right now, and
Yeah,
he releases all his specials on his YouTube channel.
yeah, and I mean, look at Josh Johnson. Like Josh Johnson releases like a mini special that's topical, like he's writing a Daily Show segment in a way. He releases one every single week. So he basically is doing a special every single week, and then he's monetizing it, and it blows up every week. And then it's like a cyclical snowballing effect because now his tour dates are selling out because people want to be there for when he creates the thing, and he's also a great comic. But yeah, so it's like the one feeds into the other, and
Yeah.
so he's monetizing his YouTube, and then he's getting paid, at the clubs, and then clips that he's doing weeks ago are making him money, and that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to ask you this, and you kind of touched up on it, but when when I started, especially, like, everyone was doing free tickets, like, come see me for free, just to get people in the audience, and you'd probably get maybe $1 a head that shows up from the club or whatever. But now everyone, like, now I'm really trying to sell tickets, and I'm finding a very difficult time to doing that. And I was wondering, like, I know, like, with your online presence, it's probably helped you, but did you ever have that struggle while you were going up?
Yeah, I mean, I still have it every single week, and I'll sell out a weekend, but it doesn't happen until right before the weekend's done. Like I'm like almost never going into a weekend being like it's sold out. Like
Yeah.
guys, sorry. There's there's like
I got
there's
this.
yeah, and uh, I talked about Louis earlier. He goes, man, the worst words uh ever in comedy are there's still a few tickets left, guys. And when there's still a few tickets left, that means there's a lot of tickets left. And
Yeah.
I'm there every single week, and then like sometimes they sell out, sometimes they don't. And but you start off and you do bringer shows, like where literally like you can't get on the show unless you have 5 people that paid for the tickets. Like,
Right.
I think I might be misquoting, but like that's like a New York thing where you got to bring 5 people. Or like I think maybe some of the clubs on the outskirts of LA do that. But one time I was talking to Dane Cook, and he had just sold out the Madison Square Garden, and I was like, oh yeah, I gotta after this show, I gotta go down and do a bringer show. So I had to go on the street before the show and be like, hey, are you guys coming to the club? Will you be my people? Like, hey, do you want to go see a comedy show? Can you be one of my 5 people?
Yeah.
And so I would have to go down there before the show and talk 5 people into going in the show so I could be on the show. And Dane Cook he goes, man, he goes, I am going to tell you something that's going to change your life. He goes, I just did Madison Square Garden. He goes, and that's a bringer show. He goes, but in order to do Madison Square Garden, I had to bring the entire crowd that goes to Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap, it never ends. I go, it never ends. And he goes, it never ends.
Yeah,
And
definitely. But it's a little easier the more famous you are, though, because then,
yeah,
yeah.
he's not on the sidewalk in front of Madison Square Garden, like
Big show tonight. Come.
big show tonight, come. Yeah, like I'm trying to think of how Dane Cook would do it. He'd be like, big show tonight, you guys. Yeah. Like he'd be real physical. But yeah, it's yeah, I mean, some comics, man, I'm envious of the comics that like they can just like make one Instagram story, or they just post their tour dates, and people are just like it's like a cake in the break room at work, that's a
Yeah.
little too small. And everybody's like, oh, I gotta get a piece of that. And for me, I'll be like, tickets, you guys, I got tickets. And and then this isn't an original thought, but dude, I'll go to like I'll go to like Grand Rapids, Michigan. And the whole week, I'm like, please come out to Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids. Hey, everybody, look at me. I'm in Grand Rapids. I'm in front of the fountain, and I'm doing Grand Rapids things. And then I'll get done and I'll post the next video the next Monday. And then some dude will comment, when are you coming to Grand Rapids? And I'm like,
Where were you last week?
yeah, I'm like, dude, all I've been doing is trying to reach you, and it's maddening, it's and you want people to go like I've heard comics get mad when when people you'll post a video and people will be like Charlotte, North Carolina, and um they get mad, they get frustrated that people are constantly saying that, but I love it. Like
Yeah.
tell me in the comments where you want me to go, like, but also check my stuff because normally I'm telling you where I'm going to go.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. But
but yeah,
the
tickets are, ugh,
they're
ugh.
they're nuts. You were talking about bringer shows. My very first show, it was in I want to say 2003. It was at the Ha Ha, and I didn't know this was a bringer show, and so I get there, and I'm like 15 at the time. I'm very young, and they're like, "Where's your people?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And my mom gave me her ATM card, so I was like, "Oh," so I took out $200 and I just paid hookers to come see me. So, but I, but
Dude,
I,
that's so funny.
yeah, but I remember like that my parents were fucking pissed. You know what I mean? But I remember that feeling. I was like, I'm never doing another bringer show like that again because it cost me $200 and I didn't get sex.
Dude, that's so funny. That is, oh my God. How much, like, cause I've never been with a lady of the evening or anything like that. But like, people always go, oh, it's this much for, this much for a handy, this much for a BJ, this much for sex. Like, how much does it cost to get a hooker to come to your comedy show?
Well, I took out 200, so I think I gave $50 to each of them. Or I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
yeah, and that
That's,
was back then. So that was a lot of money back then. Now I'm sure if someone were to try it, it'd probably be double, because now they're
yeah.
really strict on that 2 drink minimum nowadays. But
That's funny that, yeah, and the Ha Ha Comedy Club is sort of over in that part of the valley where like there might be a few hookers
yeah, it's
hanging.
it's a great club, by the way. I'm not
Oh,
knocking it.
and
I'm
I
just
love the
knocking the
family.
promoter. Yeah, whoever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I love the family that runs it. I love Jack Senior. I love Jack Junior. Jack Junior is doing really good in comedy, by the way.
Oh
He's
yeah,
killing it.
he's blowing up this year, and
He's blowing up,
he's doing
and
exactly what you got to do.
yeah, he's doing this thing, like
Yeah.
he's really putting out a lot of great content. And but yeah, it's that's so funny that you paid hookers to go to the show for the bringer. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean now it's funny, but Pete, at the time it was not funny. You know how much shit I got into in my family about this because we were
Oh
very
yeah,
broke, and they're all like, I was just like, oh.
yeah.
But then I
Also,
knew that's when I had to do comedy. You know what I mean?
yeah, that is like, yeah, we all know comics that um I don't know, they don't work for it, or they don't work for it, they don't obsess over it, their heart's not in it, and those are usually the people that you're like, I don't know if you're gonna make it, because this is like, it's an obsession, and
Yeah.
you'll kind of do whatever it takes to get on stage, or you're always racking your mind over like, how am I going to come up with the next thing, or like the next bit, or how can I sell these tickets, or how can I get on stage. And I know guys that just don't have that. They're like, yeah, whatever. And you'd think that those people would be funnier than the other ones, and they're usually not.
Right.
uh
Yeah.
it's
Comics are divas sometimes too. Have you ever noticed that? Like it's just
yeah.
like it's like I don't understand this. Like I'll give you an example. Yesterday I did a show at Ontario, and I was with a celebrity, and I was like, yeah, I just got to get her back to the hotel and stuff, because she doesn't want to take pictures or whatever. And
Yeah,
this other guy on the show said he didn't want to host, and I was just doing a guest set because the guy said I could do a guest set because she was in town and all that stuff. I was like, okay, well, why do I have to host then? Like that makes no sense.
yeah,
I ended up asking her, hey, is it cool if we stay for the whole show because this comic doesn't want to host or whatever? So I felt like me hosting kind of saved the show, but I just thought that
yeah,
this the other guy on the show was just kind of being diva-ish about it. I was like, you're not the
yeah,
headliner, you know what I mean? Like I don't get it.
yeah. I mean, first of all, like, nobody wants to host.
Yeah.
Everybody would rather go up um not hosting, but like, you know, the people that I know that are like, yeah, whatever, I'll host, or they host a lot. Those are usually the people that become the best headliners because, sometimes you go on the road and the comic in front of you is, instead of getting the crowd to positive 100, they dig a hole, and they've lost the trust of this crowd that, has paid for dinner and cologne and dates and parking. And as the headliner, you got to like re-MC for the crowd and like get them back to zero so you can get them to positive 100. But
Right.
so, like, I don't know, like whenever I meet somebody that's like, I don't want to host, or like
Yeah.
I know my value. And I've been criticized in my personal life and in my career for being too like a pushover, not having boundaries enough. But like, I think comedy is one of those places where, like, the more people push you down, the better you get. Because like, when somebody's like, dude, you got to host, it's like, all right, then I'm gonna sharpen the hosting tool with a big crowd. It's also like, dude, if you're afraid to host, you don't want to follow someone who's like, yeah, I'll host.
Yeah.
Like, because the guy that's like, yeah, I'll host, is gonna crush with a cold crowd, and then you're gonna have to go up, and you're not as strong as that comedian. Like you're afraid. And
Yeah.
so
I mean,
yeah, but
luckily the person I was with said she'll stay for the whole show, so it wasn't a problem. But I was just thinking, like, because I guess that they shouldn't be thrown in, to host. And I wasn't complaining about that. I was just saying, hey, we gotta get
yeah,
her in and out. And
yeah,
the show ended up being good, but I just thought like this other guy, I was just like, I don't know, but like it just rubbed me the
yeah,
wrong way. Yeah.
yeah. The only time, like, I think I was down in Florida, and uh, this was a long time ago, but the dude who is I was doing a two-man show, and the dude that was the person at the club had gone, this is your two-man guy.
This is the first
He
man.
This is the first man. Yeah, this is first man. He this is first man. Sounds like a superhero. The guy was kind of losing the trust of the crowd every single night. And
Yeah.
and so he was like, we had a guest set, and then that guy was like, it was exactly the scenario I told you about. Like, the guest set came, and the guy who was the host was like, well, then you're going up first because I'm the feature. And uh the guest set guy, like, when you like, you can not see a comic and you can go, this guy is going to be pretty good, or this gal is going to be this person. You can just tell that they have the thing that all good comics have, where there's something wrong with them, and
Right.
you can you can see it, and it's funny. And I was like, yeah, man, like, guess that I was like, do you mind hosting? And but I did that because I was like, number one, this guy's gonna at least win over the trust of the crowd early, but also this guy who has been tanking the shows and I've had to save it is now gonna have to go up after this guy. And like, and I'm not sadistic, but I just was like, I wanted this comic that was like, I'm better than that. I was like, okay, well, then let your ego be the downfall, like.
Right.
And then the comic was bombing all week, and then the comic bombed even harder. And and then I went up, but I didn't have to save it as much because the guest set guy went up and did a bit in between and brought him back. And so yeah, I don't know. It is really nice that comic decided to stay for the whole show. That I don't know who it was, but they probably were like, dude, I know this exact situation. I've been in it. And like, you're so nice that they're like, yeah, I'll do this. Like I'll do this.
No.
And also, you probably made the show way better for that comic going up
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Not to brag, but I did. But
Yeah, you did.
but like, so like I actually really like hosting because I toured with Norm for 9 years. He was my best friend, and
Yeah,
he always made me host. And the reason why is because he said when we do Canada, the host is the most important one.
yeah.
So like that's kind of how I'm trained. You know what I mean? So like
Hmm.
that's how I fell just on that, where it's like I don't really mind if I go up first, second, or whatever, you know.
Hmm.
But like I just want to make people laugh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, back in the days of like the Borscht Belt and like the original stand-up comedy, the headliner would actually go up first, do about 10 minutes, say hello to the crowd, do crowd work. Hey, everybody, welcome to my show. And I'm going to bring up a few of my friends that are and they didn't even call them my opening acts, but like, so the headliner would warm up the crowd, bring up other comics to, as like their special guests, and then come out and do like 50 more minutes to close the show. So
Yeah.
they would still do an hour, but they were the ones that were the host. And so, yeah, just like Norm said, and yeah, in Canada, that I just worked Canada 2 nights ago, but it was I was with Fluffy, so it was an arena, so it wasn't the traditional thing. But the last time I worked Vancouver, yeah, the host was like a seasoned headliner, and they believe in that. They believe that the first comic should be really strong. A long time ago, there's a guy, Dave Stroop, that books a lot of the Funny Bones. He owns and books a lot of the Funny Bones. And he used to have me he featured me for way probably too long when I had already started headlining other clubs. But he goes, I like it when you feature, because he goes, during the host and the feature, that's when people decide if they're going to really drink that night.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And so he's like that financially, even though you get paid less, is actually the two most important parts of the show, because you're gaining the trust of the crowd. And like, if people are like, dude, you know, we're here to see so and so, and like, oh my god, he hasn't even gotten up yet. We know he's going to kill it, and these openers are just smoking the room. Like, people will be like, shots, or like they'll literally, like, yeah, they'll be like, dude, let's get another round. Like, they're having a great time. If their wife is laughing, they're like, yeah, let's get another drink. Like you can see the couples are looking at each other like, man, there might be sex tonight. And it's like the openers just change the whole dynamic of a whole night for everyone in the room.
Yeah. Do you ever see someone when they do that, like, oh, like even when you started, for example, you saw a headliner, can I get a shot up here or something? Like,
Yeah,
do you ever think maybe they're just trying to burn that 50 minutes that they say they have, like try and burn five off of it? You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That I've seen that. Man, I know that feeling. I've had that feeling early on in my career when I was like, all right, my first headlining thing, and like it. I'm somebody who takes a set list on stage almost every single time, and I've been told by some of the worst comedians that that's unprofessional. And I'm like, dude, I don't know. It's the way my brain works. Like, I need to see the things, or if I'm working on stuff, I need to see, I need to have that right in front of me to remind me, like, hey, you need to work on this bit or that bit. But
Yeah.
uh, but anyway, yeah, like I used to, write down every bit that I had ever and have it on a sheet. And like, there are those nights early on in headlining where you get through a third of the thing, and you're like, man, that's an hour. And then there are times where the crowd stinks, or it's not so much that they're bad, but there's a type of crowd where they eat up every joke. They go, ha ha, ha ha, it's like short laughter. They're definitely good, but they're just gobbling up material. And
Yeah.
so they're gobbling up the material, and then right afterwards they're sucking all the air out of the room. And somehow it just feels weird the whole time you're up there. And so you're going out over it's just bit after bit after bit. And you're looking at your list, and I'm looking at my timer, and I'm like, shit, I like I've gone through almost my whole list, and I have 35 minutes left. And what the hell do I do?
Can I get a
And
shot?
yeah, hey, can I get a shot? You guys doing shots? Yeah, yeah. I've definitely been there, and I'm lucky enough now to have like a catalog of new stuff and old stuff, to where I can pull stuff out of my back pocket. But I remember my wife, she, for the whole first year that we were together, she toured with me. She would, she went on tour with me, and she was doing her tech job, and she's working full time in tech. And then she's, going on the road with me as well. But there was this one night, and it was New Year's Eve, and it was in Naples, Florida, and it was like just a bunch of boat owners,
Off
and
the hook.
off the hook. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, off the hook. And I do love that club, but this particular crowd, they were just affluent, um, affluent, older, just a an odd collection of people that just their wife wanted to go, they didn't. Um, you know, they pissed off the wife in the car that wanted to go,
Right.
and they're just people that are not having a good night. And I was like, well, it's New Year's Eve, it's early show, I got to make them laugh. And my wife was like, man, so many of those jokes I had never heard them before. And she's like, but I've watched a lot of your old stuff online, and like that's a lot of your old stuff. And I was like, yeah. And she goes, I never thought that I'd be able to hear that live. And I go, yeah, if I ever am struggling, like, and you hear those bits, like, or even if the show's going well, you're like, man, why is Pete pulling out these old bits? He's doing well. It's because like I'm the crowd's not good. I'm making them sound better than they are, but I'm gonna cram 2 hours of material into 1 hour because the
Yeah.
crowd stinks. And I'm gonna be like on my toes, sweating, and that's gonna be the show that when I get off stage, I'm gonna go like, oh fuck, oh my god, oh god, that was like, and
Can't wait to
that
go back to LA or New York.
yeah, or just can't wait to go back to the Renaissance Inn, the Residence Inn, and just sit there and go, ah, that fucking crap.
Uh,
But yeah, but I mean that I would say that rarely happens now, luckily. But man, it happens, and it's like it's not a thing where you go, oh, now I've been doing it for 27 years. That doesn't happen anymore. Like I call it the audience slot machine, where like when you first start doing it, like 1 out of every 5 crowds is you're going to struggle with, right? And then
uh,
you get better, and 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20, and now it's probably for me, it's probably like 1 out of 100 crowds. I'm gonna go, oh shit! Like I'm gonna pull a lever, and it's gonna be like lemon, 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 and I'm gonna have to work my ass off the whole show
yeah.
and be like, hey, so can I get a shot?
It's kind of like a video game in a way. You know how like the video games like sports players they have a rating.
Huh?
I feel all comedians have a rating from all their shows they've done. Like no one's ever going to be 100%. You know, the best
Yeah,
maybe 90, right? But like all the shows you've done from all the years that goes into your rating. So it's just like
yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
You're so right. It is a rating. And there's also like, you go up in front of a difficult crowd, and I wouldn't know how to like make a spreadsheet and like label all these different crowds, but there's like a vibe you get from a crowd. And sometimes like, you're kind of losing the game early on.
Yeah.
And then towards the end you go, oh, I finally figured out how to do how to kill with this crowd. And then it could be 70 crowds later you come up, and that crowd has that vibe, and you know how to like get on their frequency. You know which tuning fork to get out, and you can get them early, and so that crowd that you hated will help with a crowd down the road, make you like them or understand them. And I'll give you an example. Like recently, I've been doing some colleges, and comedians complain like, oh, the college kids are so woke or whatever that they suck. And yeah, that is something that makes them suck. Like, and by the way, I'm somebody that like, I agree with the principles of the woke kids or whatever. Like, I want the world to be better for people.
Right.
I want people that previously didn't get opportunities to get them. I want I'm all about inclusion or whatever, but like I think the vast majority of people that like dress like they read, and they like kind of have like the woke ideology. I don't think they're helping anyone, and I don't
Oh
think they're
no.
doing anything. I think they're like TSA security. Like they're like, I'm here to protect these people, and I'm here to protect them from words. But they're TSA security. They're not real security. They're theater security. And I don't even trust that they believe what they're projecting that they think. And
Well, I agree.
yeah. And so I'm just like, I'm like, I'll be doing a college, and I was doing a college recently, and I was like, you know, I just was like, yeah, my wife and I got married. She's really great, and the crowd is like tweaky. They're tweaking, and I'm like, what? What are you? I couldn't even figure out how I was offending them, but I'm like, man, I'm offending them, and it's because I was using gender pronouns. Uh,
Oh
I
my
was
god.
I was genderizing my wife, which my wife is a she her, and
Right.
I have a family member that said they them, and I respect your pronouns, I really do. But I'm not going to call my wife them in my set. Uh,
Right.
First of all, if I had to go through and like just that's not how I talk generally. My family member, I'll be like, oh, they're coming, but I wouldn't be like, yeah, my wife, they went to the store. That would almost feel like it would fuck up my timing of a joke, right?
For sure.
Um, and so I just like kind of stopped the show like maybe 3 minutes in, and I was like, hey, I like these jokes are funny and I'm getting laughs, but I feel like I'm just like fundamentally offending you. And one of the students goes, yeah, you're using gender pronouns. And I was like, dude, I was like, are we in the situation they lie about on Fox News? Like, I'm
Right.
like, no fucking way this is real life right now where you're actually where they're saying like these kids are triggered by gender pronouns. And I'm like, this is not real. Come on, please tell me you understand the nuance. And
Pretty soon we're gonna have to have a label on our shows, like kind of like
yeah,
Bobby Slayton, like, hey, you're
yeah.
probably gonna get offended. Don't come, you know what I mean?
Yeah, don't come if you're going to be offended. And like, I'm somebody that, like I said, I'm inclusive. I've already shown that I like, made statements that I love that group, that I respect pronouns. But so I was like, all right. And so there was a gal, and like sitting with another, person in the front row. And I was like, hey, what are your pronouns? And one was like she, they, and the other one was like they, them. And I was like, okay, perfect. And I was like, so you are both in a non-binary state of self, right? And they're like,
Right.
yeah. And I go, all these people in here are like trying to protect you, like, and they're like getting triggered and twitchy on your behalf. But I was like, will you tell me what your stance is on it? And they're like, yeah, your wife's a she. You should call her a she. Like, that's what
Whoa!
yeah, and I go, and I said, I go, I have a family member that's they, and they're like, yeah, you call them they, and I was like, yep,
Yeah.
and I go, so can we all agree that for the remainder of the show, I'm gonna be like, my friend Ryan, he's an idiot, I'm not gonna say anything that's going to be offensive, but can we just like these two people have now given you permission to like hear my words, and you don't have to protect them. And by the way, you're not protecting them. Like,
Yeah.
and then like, I always say this, whenever I'm talking about like trans people or whatever. I'm like, by the way, like trans people are way more fun than everybody, I'm like, they're fun. They're cool. They have the sense of humor of firefighters. And then I'm always like, and they have great cocaine. I always say that. I think it's just a funny line. But uh, it's yeah. There's all these mall cops that they just want to protect, but now. So then, two other times this college season already, I've had crowds, and I gave that. I literally just went up there. I could feel him tweaking. Oh, he's. I'm like, okay, so it's this again,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I did the same playbook. I was like, hey, I'm not trying to single you out. I'm not singling you out because you're this, but I need your help. And
Right.
then they would help, and then the crowd would get better. And um,
So that's at least kind of cool that someone's there helping you.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
And the other thing that I say is, I'll be like, and by the way, I'm also, in the show, I probably won't use they, them pronouns because I'm not gonna do jokes about people that are they, them in my set. Uh, I'm like, and I even talked to the trans people. I'm like, so you might feel underrepresented in this show. But I was like, imagine how offended this crowd would be if I did include trans people in my comedy show. You
Right.
know, like it would be that would be bad, right? Like that would be a bad thing. So it's a weird thing that like you're like not really including the subject or the people in your humor. But if you did, like my career might be over. You
Yeah.
know? But so
Well,
to be kind to that group of people, I don't include them in my show because I don't want people to take it the wrong way. But
yeah.
anyway, yeah. So, but
Well,
yeah, it helped me. It helped me like that bad crowd helped me with the other type. It just helped me go like, oh, this type of crowd needs this.
yeah. Well, Pete, I want to respect your time, but where can the folks at home follow and support you?
Oh, they can follow me at peatly.net. That's my website. My socials are Peatly. It's my name three times in a row, Petelee, again and again.
Yeah.
And Peatly. And go to my YouTube and
Yeah,
follow
we
me
gotta
there.
get that YouTube up for you.
We got
We
to get
got
that
it.
YouTube going, dude. We got
Yeah.
to get it going. But
Yeah.
dude, I'm yeah. And wait, where I want to make sure that I follow you. A lot of times with comedians, I don't. I try not to follow comics until I meet them and we're friends and stuff. But
Oh, that's
uh,
awesome.
is it
It's
KEITHREZA?
easy A.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
follow you right now, and I encourage people listening to follow you. Well, it's your
Oh,
this is your pod. They're already following you, but
yeah. But no, thank you so much for doing it. And if you're ever in Irvine or Brea, I'm just around the street. Hit me up. We'll hang out. So yeah,
100%, dude. I would
yeah,
love that. And dude, thanks for having me on. Thanks for reaching out to my management and making this happen. I
yeah.
appreciate that, man.
All right,
Yeah.
buddy. Well, thank you
All
so
right,
much, and thanks for making me laugh, pal.
dude. Thank you, man.
All
Thanks
right,
for having
Pete.
me on. All right.
I'll see you later, buddy.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
guys. That was the episode with Pete Lee. Subscribe, rate, review, and tell a friend. We'll see you guys next week on Razor Rips.